Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Well, it was an interesting day, I think, yesterday in the news. Comey, he's, about to be arrested.
Yeah, and they've decided I guess that he had to turn himself in because he had an arrest warrant out for him. And apparently the Justice Department said, hey, you know all the money you're going to make on that book that you're releasing? That new book? Yeah, we're going to take all your money. What? We're going to take all your money.
Well, yeah, the sad thing is, though, the book is written in sand and shells. I don't know.
They don't expect a lot of people reading it, really.
No, they really don't. You got to go to the beach, It's got to be a good weather day.
Yes.
Some kid can't go running along and kick the shells in the sand. Otherwise, his book is crap.
Oh, gosh.
It is probably crap. But either way, yeah, they seized the sales.
What was that old rhyme? Sandy sells seashells by the seashore.
Down by the shiny seashore. Yeah, I'm not going there.
Now it's Jimmy sells seashells by the seashore.
Easy for you to say. Jimmy sells seashells by the seashore.
It's a mouthful, I'll tell you. That. So, he is going to lose his profit. Seriously, folks, from the book that's, I guess, about to be released, his new book. And I guess
he's got 2 counts against him, which anybody that's ever dealt with anything legal, that's not enough to stick. These are pretty serious charges. But what they will do is they'll hit him with a bunch of other throwaway charges so that these major ones can stick. But I wouldn't be surprised that this is not the tip of the iceberg, because if other people around him start going, oh, crap, they're coming my way, they'll throw him under the bus like that. They'll just get rid of him.
People are saying, I've heard it, experts, listen, if all they have is the picture of the seashells on the beach, they haven't got a case, and he's going to walk again. And Todd Blanche came out. I haven't got the audio, and he said essentially, do you think we're stupid? Do you think we're dumb that we would file charges against this guy with just that picture? The seashells on the beach? Do you think that's why he's being charged? He said, we got a lot more than that, and you'll see in the not-too-distant future. And I think that Comey's derriere might be in a slingshot, as they would say.
He's going to sit there and try to shuffle off to Buffalo with it and, make fun of it and everything like that. But I think as the clock draws nigh and we get closer to it, other people that could be, closely tied to him might sit there and say, you know what, we got to cut ourselves from this guy. And they might turn coat and spill some beans.
Or, Bill, maybe they're going to take Comey aside and say, listen, Mr. Comey, the cells aren't that high. You're a big guy. You're going to have to duck your head a lot when you're in jail. So we can make a deal with you if you want. If you want to talk about who had you do all this stuff, if you want to,
I don't think you can take her and him down, though. I think you get close to her, we'll put it that way, your life is in danger.
Well, we'll give you federal protection. I'm sure they said that to Epstein, too.
Yeah, you get federal protection. Vince Foster. Let's go through a list.
Jeffrey Epstein was in jail, right?
He just became suicidal.
Yes.
With
in a protected cell where they had guards watching him. He was on suicide watch,
Yeah. Well, it gave a whole new meaning to suicide watch. Yep, we watched him do it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly. By the way, here's what they said. Federal prosecutors will seize James Comey's book sale profits after he was indicted on 2 felony counts on charges related to his Trump assassination Instagram post. The Justice Department issued a forfeiture notice because prosecutors believe Comey posted the 8647 Trump threat to help with sales of his forthcoming book, Red Verdict. Well, it says, and this is from the complaint.
Well, it was going to be the cover of the book, but not now.
It says, quote, upon conviction, the defendant shall forfeit to the United States any property, real or personal, which constitutes or is driven or derived from proceeds traceable to the said offense, the indictment said. So I guess if he was planning on that new Maserati, it's going to be on
let me
hold.
ask you a question here. Because he did the 8647 seashell thing and posted that. And, there are a lot of sycophant Democrats that, just not but a few weeks ago over the ICE stuff, they started making their own signs, 8647.
Yeah.
And putting it in their yards, and they publicly posted it. And that is basically, as they're showing with Comey, a threat on the president. It's basically to say, kill the guy. Does that mean that these everyday common citizens who are sycophant Democrats are now guilty of the same thing?
I think someone asked that question on one of the talk shows, and
great minds think alike.
I think it was a great mind, yeah. And that's when Todd Blanche said, "Hey, wait a second. We're not doing this just because of that picture." Someone said, well, didn't Jack Posobiec put 8646 as a comeback on his website? Should he be going to jail? And that's what he said. No. This is not about the seashells on the beach. I mean, they have something to do with it. That's maybe a symbol of what it's all about, but there's more to it, a lot more to it.
Yeah. You can say 86 blank blank, but if you got a plan that follows it up and tentacles that all connect to that octopus, now you got it. Now you got a conspiracy, and I think that's where they're going.
Well, yeah. What if hypothetically 8647 wasn't a statement but was instructions, a signal? What if it was? What if you heard from somebody, hey, listen, do something when you see on Comey's website 8647? So he does seashells on the beach, and everybody thinks it's innocent when actually it's a signal. I'm just saying, apparently there's a lot more to it than just a simple, innocent picture, because I think a picture alone would be protected by free speech.
Probably so, and that's what they're trying to claim. But if you have things connected to it, now all of a sudden, okay, it's a manifesto in a way to where it connects to something bigger. Fauci's in trouble too, because that wasn't Comey's not the only thing going down. I guess.
David Morin's is in trouble. His right-hand guy. He got indicted.
Yeah, and what did he do? It was the documents that proved where COVID came from.
Right.
That was he ordered to destroy him because he destroyed him.
Yeah, I guess he didn't think it was important. I mean, there were people forget this, Bill, but there were tens of thousands of people who died as a result of the vaccine that we didn't.
More than that.
We didn't hear about it. They didn't talk about it. Would I have gotten the vaccine if I had known how dangerous? I mean, I got 2 shots, and after the second shot, somebody said, "What the hell are you doing?" And I thought, "What do you mean?" "Well, it's not good for you, And I stopped. I don't think you got it, did you, Bill?
No, I didn't get it. I'm a no-vaxxer, and my son that lives at home with me, the one, my last remaining kid with me, we sat down and had a discussion, and I said, I don't want to do this. He goes, I don't want to do it either. I don't trust it, and I don't, and he's not a, he's a right winger too. No, he's pretty conservative in his beliefs. But he's definitely not a right winger. He's not a left winger. He's just a patriotic kid that's very observant, as a lot of people his age, 24, are, that are sitting there going, the world is pretty messed up, and they see politics for what it really is. It's a blank show. And, but we decided not to do it.
Yeah, I got it, and I found the only thing that happened to me was I developed a third eye.
You kind of got hoodwinked into it, but we're not going there.
I got a third eye, folks. I can now see better. You see, I have a hell of a time getting I have a hell of a time getting glasses, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, you can see what's coming up behind you with
I
that
can
third
see
eye
where
now
I'm
that
going
you're
and where I've been. Yeah. Anyway, no, I laugh at it, but seriously, folks, the whole COVID thing. They're saying may have been a whole setup from the Wuhan labs, which, Fauci, if everything is accurate, he gave hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Wuhan lab to develop it, to develop COVID. And I mean, remember when it first came out, they said, well, it came from a wet market in Wuhan, and some farmer's chicken had it or something. And
there's so many lies out there. There's traces back to Harvard. There's traces to University of North Carolina, where the kids died from it, cleaning up because they had the infected mice there. And they were cleaning the cages, and just cleaning the dust from it infected them with the virus, and they died. Nobody talks about that. So what were they doing with the damn infected rats?
Hey, by the way, folks, if you hear a little hesitation occasionally, it's our line. It's not the best line today. We apologize. That happens on occasion. Bear with us. It'll improve as the show progresses, I hope. Anyway, so we have Comey possibly going to jail, maybe. I know he's going to go to court. I saw an interesting meme this morning on one of the websites that showed seashells, and it said, and one of the setup was, it was like seashells making the image of a handcuff, right? And below it said Comey. So I thought that was an interesting little comeback, considering, Also, the biggest story that came out yesterday, I don't know whether you're aware of this or not, but Republicans could gain dozens. I'm not talking about one or two.
Oh, in Florida?
Dozen? No. Not just Florida, Bill. The country. Dozens of House seats after SCOTUS outlaws racial gerrymandering.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a biggie there, the racial gerrymandering. There's things going on in Florida, too. I mean, they talked about it. So
let me play Shannon Bream. She explained exactly what it means.
Good morning. Okay, so this at first blush here is a win for the plaintiffs who were not black plaintiffs. They were non-minority voters who challenged this decision. These two districts that were minority majority. Essentially, Louisiana had drawn up districts, and then they were told in a legal battle that they had not represented black and minority voters sufficiently. They went back and drew a second district. So they had two of these minority majority districts. Well, then non-black voters sued and said, this is now violating our rights on the basis of race. So it looks like this is a 6-3 decision. There is one concurrence here, but it looks like the dissent sticks together with Justices Kagan, Sotomayor, and Jackson. But here's what the majority says. They say in some, because the Voting Rights Act did not require Louisiana to create an additional majority-minority district, no compelling interest justified the state's use of race in creating SB 8. That was those two new districts. That map is an unconstitutional gerrymander, and its use would violate the plaintiff's constitutional rights. Now, this opinion is almost 100 pages long, so we're going through to see if it says something more broadly about the Voting Rights Act. That had been the fear on the left, that somehow this decision, if it was favorable for those challenging these maps, that it would somehow do a big chunk out of the Voting Rights Act. Haven't gotten to language that suggests that yet. It sounds like this decision is primarily about what happened in Louisiana. So we'll keep digging through this, but for right now, it's a win for those who were challenging these two minority-majority districts. Now, as we read through this and figure out the broader implications, there were 20-plus districts across the country that would have potentially lined up with this decision. They could be open to challenges that they were drawn on the basis of race, or that it was the primary factor that was used in drawing those districts. Most of those are throughout the South. So we'll look to see if there's enough sweeping language in this particular decision that may have a domino effect on some 20 other districts. Could be huge for the midterms. We'll continue to read through.
You got it.
Okay, that was her evaluation just after the decision came down. Well, a lot of people took a lot of time to look into it afterwards, and they're saying that, and by the way, you were partially, when you said Florida, it was about Louisiana, but when you said Florida immediately took that decision, went back to their the districts and set them back at what they were before they had to make
They reset it.
Yeah, they reset it. And so already it's a win in Florida for the Republicans. Louisiana, with this gerrymandering that they were trying to get through, the left was trying to get through, had literally set the state up so that there were districts that definitely were not left-leaning districts, but because of the way they were set up with this new gerrymandering, they would have lost those districts to the Democrats. The Democrats were playing games here.
Yeah, they're playing games, and they made it a racial thing. They chose the black population, and then they sat there and divided it too, because how they divided it was, let's find the left-leaning ones. Well, geez, okay, let's talk about our Native American Indian people. Maybe they need to be District 2. Well, there's the American Italians. Well, you know what? They need to have their own voting district. Oh, let's not forget the Irish. But, the Hispanics out there. Come on.
What was the name of that
Americans.
movie? Was it Mars Attacks? It was
Mars Attacks, yeah.
When the Martians took over Congress, and all of a sudden something happened, and their heads started to explode.
Yeah.
That's what the Democrats were doing yesterday when this decision came down. You'll remember that just yesterday we had talked about the brand new Harvard University poll that found that the two parties aren't widely divided in the midterms. As a matter of fact, they're at like 50-50. That was before this decision came down. Now they're saying at a minimum the right will pick up 12 seats, but they expect it that could go into the dozens of seats. And they're saying now that, those midterms that the left was saying that they were going to sweep, we were going to take the midterms, we're going to rub our nose in it. Well, now it doesn't look like that's going to happen. It looks like the right is going to do well in the midterms now. And I'm not saying the Republicans have a tendency to seize defeat from the jaws of victory. So I wouldn't say it's a guarantee, but the odds are more in their favor now than ever before because of this decision.
Well, I've never been in favor of all the districting that they do, in dividing the votes that way. Is let the people vote and let the number be the number. But that's me.
That's essentially, Bill, that's what's going to happen now because the other districts were set up. Do you know in New England where you were visiting, all right, this blew my mind. Because of gerrymandering, 47% of the people in New England voted for Trump, but they don't have any representation in Congress. The majority of the districts are set up so they're all Democrat. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I mean, they have.
This has been going on a long time, though. I mean, the Democratic machine is the oldest political machine out there. Yeah, and you don't think somebody's going to sit there and go, hey, you know what? We kind of like being in power. Let's stack the deck. And they've done that.
Well, here's the problem. Now they have, 6 months, 7 months until the midterms? And all of a sudden, this comes down, they're screwed in the midterms now. They really are. They are in trouble.
And they got to be careful because, they've got this get Trump mentality. And I was talking about that before the show, that we hope Trump makes it to the midterm or at least gets to serve his term. But, you look at the correspondence dinner and everything. They are, the Comey's little signal there in the sand. They have decided that the only way that they can do anything is to take out Trump. But here's the problem. As we get closer and eyes become wide open, the left has got a problem because now if they do it, it would be devastating, but it would be a rally point.
Well, I think they haven't got a lot of options now.
They don't have a lot of options, but you know what? And if they think it's a do or die type scenario, remember the last part of that scenario, do or die, because it's not going to be an or, it's going to be an and. They make a mistake like that. they will sit there and I think ignite a powder keg. I could be wrong. But.
It's the left is not taking this very well. Hakeem Jeffries, he wasn't just upset. He was defiant in the face of this decision. He's becoming kind of militant, Hakeem. He's not the calm, staid opposition, and he's becoming a bit radical. But Barack Obama, he said on a post, today's Supreme Court decision effectively guts a key pillar of the Voting Rights Act, freeing state legislatures to gerrymander legislative districts to systematically dilute and weaken the voting power of the racial minorities, so long as they do it under the guise of, and he goes on. But the point is, Barack is trying to make it a racial thing again. He was the most racially divisive president we've had in years. If you'll remember, and I'm sure a lot of you do, that up until we had Barack Obama, the races in our country were doing a masterful job assimilating. They really were. It was when Barack Obama became the president, he took that bandage and he ripped it off the wound. He peeled the scab. He did. And he essentially fermented and divided our country. It started with him. It started with Barack. I think, by the way, and this is my humble opinion, I think his gluteus maximus, and if you don't know what that is, check what it is.
Look it up.
Yeah, his gluteus maximus might be in a slingshot right now because I believe that he did some very illegal things. Case in point, in 2015, while he was president, he had Trump Tower bugged by the FBI. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. He had, and that's not legal, friends, in case you didn't know.
Well, you know what? He did that in 2017. That's almost, to me, like it's a treasonous thing to do. Obviously it's election interference.
One of the posts said, guts, a key pillar of the Voting Rights Act. Translation, how dare they stop us from rigging districts by skin color to keep Democratic seats? That's what somebody responded to Barack. Another person wrote, Benny Johnson wrote, if white people were doing the same thing, you'd burn cities down. It's wrong, illegal, and unconstitutional. In a republic, we have the rule of law, not the rule of race. And I think he's right. Mm-hmm. If you took what they were doing because of this law and just flipped it,
Well, we've done it in a lot of things. Hell, they did it in our business. When there used to be a company that I think Sinclair owned it, but it was Arbitron. And then they would sit there and weight the diaries.
Yes.
And I would sit there and go, boy, I'll tell you what, everywhere you go, our radio station is on everywhere, every story. You'd go to the mall, it was there. And then lo and behold, a 250-watt AM daytime gospel, station
had better numbers.
Was the number one station in town. It even beat the urban black station, but it beat everybody. Well, how did that happen? Did we have that many, gospel-oriented people? They all got diaries?
Yeah.
Or they were weighted.
For those of you who don't understand what we're talking about, the broadcasting, radio broadcasting, and TV too, but radio broadcasting lives and dies by ratings, okay? And they do these things called diaries. They spread these little notebooks out. They used to. They've since made it more, technologically advanced, but they used to send out these little paper diaries to different people, and they would fill in. They were supposed to fill in while they were listening to a certain radio station, what they were listening to, who they were listening to, the time, stuff like that. The problem was, first of all, a lot of people didn't fill them out till like the day before they had to send them back in.
If you looked at them, some were filled out in crayon. Here,
exactly. But the other thing is that when Bill said weighted, and a lot of people don't know what that means that if you are a minority, and you were filling out the diary, you might get the voting rights of not one person, but maybe 10 people. I'm just saying hypothetically, just for...
Well, it went beyond just the waiting thing, because what they would do is, you have what was that group? AWB, the Average White Band. You have the average white guy
Pick up the pieces.
and he gets a diary, and they go, hey, don't fill this out for a week and put it in the mail. You get $5. That's what they paid you. But if you were Hispanic, Black, well, you get $15 or $25 per household member if you fill it out. So not only did they...
Yeah, they increase the incentive, right?
They increased the incentive to make sure that you filled it out. Then, now, when I programmed, we did hot zips. We would go by zip codes, and we would find out where they were going to drop those diaries. And that was the neighborhoods.
So they give you more votes, right? And they give you more money.
Yeah. And then they drop the diaries in districts, neighborhoods, zip codes that you was sure as hell are now, you were the top 40 station. You're going, that's not where our population is. That's where the diaries are.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Bill he actually gave you more substance. It's not just one element. They do it in like three. It's where
That's how it works.
How much money they give you.
It's a rigged system.
How many votes you get per book, and where they drop your books off, your diaries off. And they say it's fair. It's fair. I went the first time I went to a ratings thing. I think I was in Hartford. No, I'm sorry, I was in New York, and I went down to Beltsville, and they were giving. We had a lot of our audience in minority areas in New York City where that people weren't listening to us, but it goes back to where they were dropping the diaries. They were dropping them in this area. The other thing is, when I worked in Hartford, like Bill said, there was a 250-watt day timer, right, that went off the air, and it went off at sunset. That's how the AM radio stations and daytimers work. They went off at sunset. And do you know that they had the number one audience at nighttime went to them? They were off the air, mind you.
Yeah, how did that work?
I don't know. And I can tell you the call it is, but I don't want to get sued. Anyway, but you can call me and I'll let you know. Let's like and share the show if you would. Tell your friends about us. Jim and Bill, it's another day. We're here Monday through Friday for sure, sometimes on Saturday. I only say that because we may be taking this Saturday off too. I don't know. We took last Saturday off, and I'll be honest with you, friends. We got things to do sometimes, places to go, people to see. It's a busy world out there, and hey, sometimes you just have to take.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yes, but listen, we got you covered. If anything major is happening, we're always there for you. We try to be, for the most part, maybe. If it's a 52-week year, I figure you can count on us for like 40 weeks a year. We'll be here on Saturday. But there's some Saturdays where we take some time off. I'm just saying. I'm being honest with you. Also, if you want to contact us, you can go send us an email at mail@jimandbill.com.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. Interesting thing happened. Boy, this is happening a lot. First of all, I don't know whether you heard about this. 15 commercial-grade agricultural drones designed for use as crop dusters, which were reported stolen on March 24th in Harrison, New Jersey, were recovered April 27th in a trucking warehouse in Dover, New Jersey. Or maybe it was maybe it was Dover, Delaware. It says Dover. I think it's Dover, New Jersey. New Jersey State Police confirmed the drones and spray systems were found by its cargo theft unit. So they traced them down and they hunted them down and they found them. You may say, well, they're just drones. Folks, these weren't the little drones, the tiny drones that we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. These were the size of a van, essentially, right, with the bigger motors on them. And you say, well, so what? Well, they spray stuff, all right? They spray stuff. Let's say, hypothetically, you wanted to, you wanted to attack a city, right? You just put poison inside one of these drones and you spray it on them. This is the thing that's pretty damn scary about drones nowadays is even in this Iran war they're having right now, one of the biggest weapons they fear aren't the missiles or the jets, it's the drones. They're flying drones into Israel, and they're wreaking havoc.
Well, they can fly below radar.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and what radar? 100 feet? Fly at 90 foot. And, plus the drone has detection to where it can sit there and go, oh, I'm coming up to a tree, go around it or go over it.
Yeah.
It might blip up on the radar or go around. But either way, it can find its way. So you can't take a big fighter jet.
Which
and
says
fly
that
it on.
you're saying it can fly in the dark.
Yeah.
It can fly in the dark with no lights on. So you may hear a bzzz, and that's it.
Well, if you hear that, I mean, I'm sure that they have whisper fans for those things now. They can sit there and just fly them along, and that's it.
Well,
The time you hear it is about when you see the nose of it hitting your face.
If you're hearing this story about this truckload of stolen drones, how many drones are stolen we don't hear about? It does concern me, folks. It does, because they can be used as a very effective weapon. Now, you may say, what's the big deal, Jim? It's just a drone. My kid has one. A United Airlines passenger jet traveling from San Francisco to San Diego reportedly struck a drone yesterday. If you don't believe me, here's how it sounded. Listen.
Ground Unit 1980, getting off of runway 27 at Broadway, Bravo.
1980, roger, straight ahead to spot 1, and when their contact ramp.
Yeah, but it's spot 1 and then contact ramp, and we hit drone at around probably at around 3,000 feet, around on our base leg between Cat Dog and Saeed. Red drone heading west.
You have like approximate size or how many engines or style or anything like that?
It was so small I couldn't tell. It was red. It was shiny. I could tell it.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay, the good news is the plane was fine and there were no injuries, and but for the grace of God, because if that had been sucked into one of the engines on this 737, they only have 2 engines, on one on each wing, could have been a real disaster. Say 3,000 feet, Bill, for a small drone.
Well, actually, I think the legal flying limit for a drone is 400 feet.
Wow.
And that's all you're allowed to do it. DJI drones, they do 500 feet, but they can go quite a bit higher than that. Usually you see drones, non-commercial drones, 30, 40, 50, 60 feet. But 400 is actually pretty high. But the fact that he was at 3,000 feet.
Yeah.
I don't really think there is a ceiling on it. It's just that, is it out of the range of the person controlling it? But let's say that drone has a pre-programmed microchip. It has instructions. I don't see where it doesn't have anything in there that's subject to, gravity or anything like that. I mean, when you get to a high altitude to where, you got to go to oxygen, it doesn't care. It flies.
What if it was designed to take out the airliner? What if it was a weapon and it just didn't explode? 3,000 feet.
What if it goes and gets in the flight path of a jet, and let's say the jet has 3 engines, and it goes into the air intake of the main engine.
Well, that's right. Yeah, I said that a second ago. It
disintegrates the inside of the engine, and then that plane is homeward bound in a quick way.
How do you regulate this? How do you stop it? Every kid nowadays can buy a drone. I mean, you can go on Amazon probably right this very moment and download a really sophisticated drone with a decent amount of
$800
range.
and you can have a DJI, and you can get up there. They say 400 or 500 feet, but you can go a lot higher than that. The only thing you got to worry about is, I think you got something like up to a 3-mile range on the transmitter, and a lot of these drones are built in to return home. So if you lose control, it turns around, and comes back to you anyway. It homes in on its controlling device, from what I understand. I don't know.
Bill, didn't they used to? And I'm not I don't really know a lot about them, but didn't they try to make them so that you had to get some kind of authority from the FAA before you could fly a drone? You had to have some kind of training before you. I think
that's
for a while.
it. Okay. Well, they still do that. If you want to sit there, you make money. I mean, real estate agents hire people to get a drone, fly over, take pictures of the house, aerial views. You actually have to have that, and you have to basically do regular clearance to say, because you're licensed. I think it's Part 107 or something like that you have to know. You have to be instructed, and you can get that license very easily. You get that license. You can
you
fly
get
a
it
drone
online?
You could probably take a class online, get it, become a commercial pilot, and then you can commercial drone pilot. I knew a kid that went to school with my son, and when he graduated, he went into the Air Force to go up to Idaho to go sit in one of those, those cargo trailers that sit in the back of trucks. Well, they convert those to the
control rooms
for the big drones, the big ones you see take off on a runway. And he flies those. So he could be sitting in Idaho taking out something in Iran.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. But scale that down to somebody with the little drone box. They might have a suitcase they carry that has the controller in it, and then the drone, they take it and they fly around. They do aerial pictures. They can fly over a big, tall skyscraper, take pictures there, take long shots. But you do need a license for that.
TV stations use them too, right?
Yeah.
TV stations.
It's very easy to get them. Well, you know what? They can, guys used to have to climb up towers and inspect them, and now you can just fly a drone up, take a look at it.
Yeah, that's true. It has its pluses and its minuses. I would imagine if you have a high-rise building and you want to inspect something in the outside of a building, now you don't have to send a guy out there, with a harness. You can actually just fly a drone up with high resolution and inspect it all you want from the ground, which is kind of
yeah.
neat.
You don't have to do anything. It's the drone does everything, and I know that I am not an expert on this, so if I made any kind of technical mistakes in the description, I'm fine with that because I don't fly drones.
Well, which brings us to
but I am fascinated by them, and I've looked at them.
The Iran war situation, right? I mean, you hear them saying, you keep doing this to us, and we're going to ramp our end of the war up. I'm talking about Iran. You say, what could they do? Well, I think what they could do is probably use drones against us. You're saying, well, how could they use drones against us over here? But, thanks to Joseph Robinette Biden and the left, and they're allowing 25 million illegals to come across the border, I would imagine that there's a good chunk of those illegals who are Iranian and Iranian sympathizers who probably are here on hold, awaiting orders, so to speak, And one of those things they could do is use drones against us, and that leads us to the beginning of that story about that truck and those stolen drones.
Yeah. Well, here's the limitation. The DJI drones, they can actually fly pretty high, higher than what they clear. They say the firmware ceiling, that is how high your controller will, control that drone, is 1,640 feet. Well, that also means chances are that, you could do a firmware update and maybe an antenna booster and get that up to 3, 4, 5 miles. That plane said they were up at 3,000
feet, yeah.
So, okay, all they had to do is double that distance. And it wouldn't take much power or much of an update to double that distance up.
Wow. Yeah, folks, you may say, well, how can they do that? But, I mean, they put governors on cars. You can take governors off of cars, too, off of engines.
Well, in higher frequencies, it's line of sight. So let's say that you were flying at a plane
Right.
that, like you parachuted the drone out, you just threw the drone out, but you're controlling that drone from 10,000 feet. The FM signal on it would travel all the way down to the ground pass. So that 1,600-foot level, that's out the window. Now, all of a sudden, you've got control of that drone for anything below you.
And if I have it correctly, they could have literally used their TV screen to fly into that plane.
Probably, yeah.
They could have seen the plane, aimed at the plane, and tried to take it out. They don't talk about that. They don't want you to know. What I find amazing when they have an attack of some kind in our country, like within an hour or two, they'll say, well, we believe that this wasn't terrorist connected and it was a one-of-a-kind isolated situation. They never know, by the way, never know whether it's a terrorist attack that quickly, but they always throw that out there. Like they're on top of it, folks, and there's nothing to see here. Just move along. And if you think about it for a second, how the hell could they, after an hour or two, where have they gotten their information from? But they always throw it out. Well, we've done some initial investigation. They'll do it at a press conference. We believe this is a one-of-a-kind isolated situation, and he was a lone wolf acting on his own. How could you possibly know that in like 2 hours or 3 hours? They did that with the Charlie Kirk shooting, with this
we still don't know.
Right. Well, they said it about Thomas Matthew Crooks.
We still don't know.
Don't you find that amazing, Bill? Here it is a year and a half later. What was it? It happened in, June or July of 2024? By now, we should know.
See, but the American people are, we're crows. We go for the shiny objects. So when something like that happens, we want to know, and we want to know now. So they give us an answer, and then, we as the public go, well, that was it. I'm done. Now, it could come out a week later after we go, that's it. I'm satisfied, and find out it was all wrong. But I'm satisfied. I'm moving on now. And, we go to the next distraction. And that's the other thing. If they don't have an answer, here comes the distraction.
Bill, I was thinking about this morning as I was putting my show prep together about how quickly the top story disappears from the stack of stuff. Just last week and a half ago, the top story was the Iran war. It was everywhere. They had correspondents covering this and that and this and that, and all of a sudden, folks, it's not like you say the bright shiny object anymore, and it's like falling off the page. Nothing has changed. We still have the blockade. They're still trying to screw us up in the Strait of Hormuz right now. The deadline is still Saturday. You think that would be a top story, but the media has to. I think they're the ones who go after the bright, shiny objects. And in doing so, in not keeping a focus on a story anymore, look at Nancy Guthrie. What was that, 3 months ago? 3 months ago, Nancy...
They stretched that a long way, I'll tell you what.
Oh, man, she was everywhere.
Again, we have a short attention span. We like bright, shiny objects. So news sensationalism sells. So... something happens, throw out the sensation, move on to the next topic. And that churns and burns that audience coming back for more gossip. We feed on gossip.
Yeah.
It's the Chicken Little news. The sky is falling, whatever it is, whatever disaster that they can sit there and not necessarily manufacture, but just sit there and scare us with, and then move on before we say, wait a minute, this is a bunch of crap.
We've talked about this before. When I was a young man in the business, when they ran a bulletin sounder on the station, it was a bulletin. It was a major story. Something major happened. You hardly ever heard it. But if they want to break into your show with a bulletin, it was going to be important. And in that most every station I worked in. Now, if you watch like Fox News, they come out of a commercial set with the spinning breaking news or whatever it is, like, and then they'll come out with a story about so and so overparked in the parking lot next door. Film at 11. Who gives a damn? But they do this on a regular basis. Every single day, you're inundated with this breaking news. So you don't know what's really important anymore. They've watered it down so much. And I mean, Nancy Guthrie, by the way, she is still missing. Nothing has changed. She is still not home, and they don't know where she is. And if you go by her house right now, you probably couldn't find it because all the cameras and trucks are gone. I don't think there's a reporter anywhere standing around that property trying to get a story. They've all moved on. Life is different. They're not even doing updates anymore on Nancy Guthrie. The war in Iran. 3 weeks ago, they were covering everything. You had footage, you had bombing, you had cockpit footage. You saw the bombs drop and the explosions and trucks being taken out. And now they're talking about something else completely different. The king is in town. Who cares if the king is in town?
Sensationalism works. I'm not going to get into the woods here, but we did it on a 50,000 watt station that covered, all of God's country and then some. And we used to have a saying, wherever two or more people are gathered, we'd be there with a remote, because we covered everything and everywhere. But we used to use the weather as a means of creating sensationalism on a regular basis. And I won't go into, I'll tell you off mic, how that worked. And it was pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
And I thought it was stupid at first. And then when I realized what we were doing, I sat there and said, oh. And so as a good
that was a station down in the southeast, if I remember, right? You had
down in
a lot of major weather down there.
Tornado Alley. And basically what we did, I'll tell you, we took a little subtle tone, and it was like a little beep. And it was when I got there, it was every 15. I made it 30 seconds. But if there was severe weather anywhere in our coverage area, or maybe storm buildup, we would kick on the tones, and then we'd run the promos. Anytime severe weather is approaching our area, or there may be severe weather, listen to the radio station and give the call letters for severe weather beeps. That's your signal to stay tuned for news updates and weather updates of,
So every 30 seconds you heard a beep tone, and you figured
the music.
I got to keep listening. Something's coming up.
Pavlov's
dog. Yeah,
Pavlov's dogs. We trained them that way, and I think from an 8.8 to a 17.8 share was a pretty damn good proof that people can be led around, and it stayed that way for years until it was sold, and somebody said, "Get rid of all this crap," and that place is a toilet now. But they didn't understand.
The interesting thing about training people, that's all broadcasting does is trains the listener to keep coming back to listen more and more again. A successful station, they give prizes out in contests. Well, I got to listen to that station. They got some great prizes. Or they play the same songs in a hot rotation over and over again. Well, I got to listen to that station.
We put you on a leash. Back in the day, we put you on a leash, and we held that leash, and we pulled it in. And that was how it worked. It was all mind training.
Yep.
Manipulation.
Hey, like and share the show if you would. Speaking of mind training, like and share the show if you would. Tell your friends about Jim and Bill. It's another day. We're here Monday through Friday for sure, and sometimes quite regularly on a Saturday too. It depends upon our mood. It's usually a very critical decision. You want to do it? No. You want to do it? No. I'll see you Monday. It's a lot of thought goes into it. Anyway, also, if you want to drop us an email and say hello, give us a suggestion, or just say, boy, I really like you guys, you can drop us an email at mail@jimandbill.com, mail@jimandbill.com.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. John Thune is giving us some real problems, I think, down in the Senate, Bill. He refuses a CBDC ban. You're saying, what is the CBDC? It is the central bank digital currency. There's an element in the Senate that is talking about allowing a central bank to monitor and control digitally all of our money. You're saying, what? See,
I don't know if that's a good idea.
They could literally, and they can say we can do it for a lot of good reasons. If you're a cartel working in this country, we can digitally stop you from accessing your funds. Or with this, by the way, is without like a warrant. This is like it just turn them off. If you don't like Bill Knight or Jim Harrington, let's just turn off their bank accounts. So if you have a decent amount of money in the bank account, it would see central bank digital current. It's a mouthful. That's why they say CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. They will have the control to turn off your funds. Now, what Thune is saying, he's not going to ban it. He's not going to ban the possibility of that kind of a thing being set up in our country. Also, he's saying that, that Save America Act that President Trump is he really wants? No, we're not going to put that out there right now. He's causing a problem, and he's a Republican. And I would suggest, Bill, and this is just me, I would suggest that the rest of the Republicans in the Senate simply quickly remove John Thune as the majority leader, because it is not, they can do that. It is not like he's elected for a term. He's elected to be the leader of they say, okay, you be our leader. But if they lose confidence in this guy, yank it. You're done. We're getting somebody else as our leader. And put somebody else in there who'll do the job. Thune, you have to say, well, why would Thune be doing this? A lot of people think it's because he is being influenced by people other than the president, let's say. Or he's being influenced by people other than the party. Well, who could that be? It could be, yes, the deep state. When you hear people say there are people on both sides of the aisle who are influenced by the deep state, they're right. There are some people in Washington who are Republican, technically, who have more in common with a Democrat than they do with you, the guy who voted him into office. And why is that? Because they're being taken care of, so to speak, in quotes, by the same people who are behind the curtain. The Wizard of Oz, so to speak, Do not look at the man behind the curtain. There are people behind the curtain who have influence on these people. It goes back, Bill, to how does a guy who gets paid $200,000 a year make $20 million in his job? I mean, in the private sector, he would be a Wunderkind. He'd be a wonder kid. He'd be amazing. He'd be a superstar. If you get $200,000 a year and you make $20 million out of it, I mean, but in Washington, they all do it. Ilhan Omar, $55,000 one year and $30 million the next.
Yeah, I'd like to know who her financial advisor was.
Me
I'd
too.
like to go from $55,000 to $35 million, and in 1 year flat. I mean, I think anybody around here, in this room would sit there and go, yeah, I'll take my $55,000 and turn it into $35 million instantly guaranteed.
When they try to, when she gets caught, it was a accounting error. Well, I don't know how that happened.
I'm sure it was an accounting error.
Yes, she got caught.
Something was wrong.
The error was that she got caught.
But here's the thing. Okay, that $35 million really wasn't yours? So you're back to $55,000? Well, what happened to that $35 million? It didn't just vanish.
Don't ask me. Don't ask me.
I mean, like a fart in the wind, it's gone.
It's like that winery, that big winery they bought in California.
Yeah, that produced no wine, but yeah.
Man, they had an interesting farm. They had a building and everything.
So, basically what we're saying is, for them, money's not real. It's just a number on a ledger. Well, I'm worth $35 million. Well, Jim, I'm sorry, but I hate to tell you this. I know that we don't make a lot of sales on this podcast.
Yes.
But thanks to the podcast, I'm worth $150 million now.
Shh, be very, very quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm getting big eyes right now. You're what?
Yeah, I know.
Where's that money?
Speaking of money, I know the Democrats, their money's nothing to them. In one hand, Ilhan Omar, she'll gladly take your $30 million. On another hand, there's the mayor. I think she's out I want to say she's out in Seattle. Her name is Katie.
Oh,
Katie
is
Wilson.
She upset?
Well, listen to what she says about millionaires leaving the area. Listen.
I think the claims that millionaires are going to leave our state are super overblown, and if the ones that leave, bye.
Oh, gag me! The studio audience finally. Someone gave him a cue to applaud.
Yeah, you know what? I would encourage the millionaires in Seattle. She ain't going to change. Their colors aren't going to change. So take your money and get the hell out of there.
But she said,
let them.
Bye.
And well, she told them. She's saying, yeah, kiss my ass, get out of here.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't do the first, but I would do the latter, get out of here, because she doesn't want you there.
Well,
and let them swim in their own debt. Like California and New York. Look at Mandani.
Well, Zoran Mandami, right?
3 months in, and he's in trouble. $65 billion.
Listen to what he said.
New York City faces a budget crisis of a historic magnitude. We inherited a deficit larger than any since the Great Recession. Years of mismanagement and chronic underbudgeting, alongside a structural imbalance between what New York City sends to the state and what we receive in return, have taken a toll. We cannot close this deficit with savings alone. We need new revenue. And we need a structural reset in our relationship with the state. That is the only way to meet our legal obligation to pass a balanced budget, and to do so without imposing a financial burden onto the backs of working people. I'm glad to partner with Speaker Menon as we call upon Albany and deliver a balanced budget. Together, we are extending the executive budget deadline from this coming Friday until May 12th, because a crisis of this scale cannot be solved without state action. I want to be clear. We are not simply asking others to act. New York City is doing our part. We are committed to governing with the fiscal responsibility this moment demands. Speaker Menon and I have already identified meaningful savings, and we will continue that work carefully, deliberately, and without cutting the services that New Yorkers rely on. But we cannot do it alone. That is why we are standing together this morning, to underscore what is at stake and to call on Albany to deliver additional revenue.
Folks, this guy couldn't manage a 7-Eleven, all right? He couldn't.
Oh, thank heaven.
Piggly Wiggly. No, couldn't do it. This guy hasn't been in office 4 months?
3 months, 90 days. 90 days, and he's in trouble. And what he's basically doing is he's already done it. People that have left there, or people that own properties there but don't live in New York City, hey, you know what? You have to pay a special extra tax for that. We doubled your taxes. What?
This guy is so lost, folks. And what he wants to do now is he wants to take the problems of New York City, which have been created by, dare I say,
spread it around the entire state.
That's exactly right. He has said that the problem was handed down to him by who? By a Democratic administration. They know how to spend your money. They just don't know how to entice people to come in.
But see, here's the problem. Let's just say that he gets the money to pay off the debt. They'll go, look at all this money coming in. Let's go spend it. We'll worry about the debt later. Let's go spend it.
That's true.
We got all kinds of giveaways and things that we
There's
really want to do.
There's no governor on him, is there? Really?
Yeah, the cash is in our hands. Let's spend it. And then we'll come back with a new sob story of why we couldn't get the debt paid down. Yeah, I'll tell you, New York, there's a way to get that debt paid down. Get that guy out of there. Get him out of there. Get him out of there and change your politicians, because that's what you're doing. You're voting in corruption.
Mamdani, he gets $120 billion a year in their annual budget. but yet he can't make things work with that kind of money. What? $120 billion isn't enough. And it goes to what you were saying. It doesn't pay for all of his socialist pipe dreams. You know, the pipe dreams. If he were really concerned about tightening the belt, he would cut these damn programs. He wants to build that supermarkets. What did they say it was going to cost? $30 billion or something like that? Or something ridiculous.
And they won't even be open this year. And but you're going to get 2 supermarkets.
Oh, unbelievable.
And after his term is up, which means that he's going to use that as his rally cry. Well, we don't have the job finished yet, so you got to have me in here one more time. And maybe one more time after that, because that's what he's going to do until he is sure that he's fleeced every damn dime of yours and, your next generation's money.
And he comes from a family of money, but I guarantee you that his family will be a lot richer when he leaves office if nothing happens.
Well, how do you think they got their money?
The Mandanis? So I don't know much about them. I know they live in Nigeria or someplace.
I'm sure, I'm sure that, the apple don't fall too far from the tree. And I'm just saying he's a crook.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think it's Nigeria. By the way, see what's happening in Nigeria? They're killing Christians by the dozens, tens of thousands.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awful. They went into a church recently and just wiped out the church.
What is their faith?
They were Christians.
In Nigeria.
Oh,
no,
the attackers are Muslims.
Yeah.
Radical
Well,
Muslims.
okay, then. Yeah, because they believe in the same God, but there's a difference in what they believe, and the Muslims believe that they're absolutely right, and if you do not, fall into their belief, then guess what?
They give you 2 options, Bill: convert
or die.
Or die. Yep, exactly.
Convert or die. That is. And we're not making that up. That's not being radical. That's not sensationalism. That's factism. Convert or die. That's the Muslim way. And now I say it's the Muslim way. There are 2 facts of Muslim people. Some that just, have the pure, love side of it. But then there's the idealist and the radical ones that take it to the extreme.
Yeah.
Which is where the religion was born from.
You see where this is interesting. Stephen Colbert is leaving the Late Show.
Oh, yeah, but you know what? He's...
you know what he says about himself?
I think he's not independent. What
he's
does
not
he
partisan.
say?
He's not a partisan, Bill.
Yeah, he's a nonpartisan guy. Yeah, you never heard him do partisan jokes, have you?
Oh, no. Stephen Colbert? My God, talk about fair and balanced.
Yeah. I mean, who else?
Why would he be doing that, Bill? Why would he be doing an interview with the New York Times and saying, I think of myself as being nonpartisan?
Well, he's distancing himself. But you know what? I mean, he was right there at the head of the line to sit there and, boo-hoo Trump and, try to stone him. The Democrats are doing this. They'll stone you. It's like, oh, that's Mary in a pit. Let's stone her. That's all the Democrats do is cast doubt and throw stones.
They don't fix stuff. They really don't.
No.
They don't. They just. It's amazing. It is not the same
agree.
Democratic Party that my father was in back in the 50s and 60s. Or I'm just saying,
if they don't agree with you, or there's a difference of opinion.
They asked Ronald Reagan, "Why'd you leave the party?" He said, "I didn't leave the party. The party left me."
Yeah.
One more story before I wrap my side of the thing up. You see, we've been talking about Cuba and how there's talk that there's going to be a change in Cuba really soon. Somebody did an interview with Fidel Castro's grandson, and the grandson said he's actually a capitalist. Listen.
We actually would welcome, he says, speaking for himself, a deal with Donald Trump. I don't like his threats, is what he told me. But if he opens up the island, if he improves the economy here, then it could all work out for the best. And so let's just listen to this conversation, which was more than a little surprising. What would your grandfather, Fidel Castro, say that you're more capitalist than communist?
My grandfather was a person who had his principles like everyone else, but he also respected others' opinions. That's my way of thinking.
But all the capitalists had to leave Cuba.
There are many people in Cuba that think in a capitalistic way. There are many people here who want to have capitalism with sovereignty.
When we arrived for the interview, the neighborhood Castro lives in is in a blackout, a near constant condition these days with the U.S. oil blockade and power plants breaking down. Sandro Castro's apartment is lit by an electric generator, but from his balcony, the surrounding houses are in near total darkness. He shows me his one-bedroom bachelor pad, how he lacks paint for the wall, how his fridge is nearly empty, except for the Cuban beer he's always drinking. I point out that the appliance is a foreign brand that most Cubans could never hope to afford. His famous last name, Sandro Castro wants people to know, doesn't come with any special treatment in a Cuba on the edge of economic collapse.
Hay que luchar como decimos todos los cubanos. Es duro, es duro.
Even for a Castro, hasta para un Castro es duro.
Durísimo, durísimo, porque sufres con miles de dificultades. Lo mismo un día no puedo ver luz, no puedo haber agua, no puedo llegar una mercancía. Es duro, es duro, es duro.
But being a Castro must help you.
Mi apellido es mi apellido, yo orgulloso de mi apellido, lógicamente, pero no veo esa ayuda que usted me está diciendo en ese preámbulo.
That, of course, is for our Spanish language listeners out there. But he said being a Castro doesn't help me. Yeah, right. Your name is Castro in Cuba. You're the grandson of Fidel, and you don't get any extra perks or bennies. Come on, you know. If there's a line, you get to the front of it. Believe me. But I like the fact that he says that. You know, a lot of people in Cuba, they're basically, they're capitalists. They want to be capitalists, and they want to be, but they want their sovereignty. He throws that in there, meaning don't take over our country, but we'll work with you on capitalism. I think they're going to find out very soon there's a new government rolling in there, and it's not going to be run by the Castros or their cronies. I could be wrong, but I think the days of Cuba being a communist, isolated Caribbean nation are done. Anyway, I'm done. Speaking of being done, Bill, I haven't got any more. No more paper on my desk here. I'm all finished.
Well, I think we're out of news for today, but as always, tomorrow's another day.
Yes, so it is.
So we'll just leave it on that note. So until the next time, hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
Who are we? And why are we here? Will we be welcome? Possibly fear. Do we unite and stand tall as a nation of one, or split and divide, or be mocked and shunned? Are our leaders patriotic, honest and true? Do they share our beliefs? Are they red, white, and blue? Truth is out there, you just have to search. Settle for less, you'll be left in the lurch. No left-leaning lies, no socialist swill. It's straight talking truth from your friends Jim and Bill. Our leaders patriotic, honest and true? Do they share our belief? Are they red, white, and blue? up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. All music the property of Jim and Bill. All rights reserved.
This is CRN America.